Today's lesson is going to be on how to create buttons so that you can create a rollover effect when you open up your website. So here's an example. As you roll over, the button changes. To make this exact site, you would have to create 6 buttons. 3 that have the original look, that's the white, and then 3 that are exactly the same but with the red background. So the first thing you're going to do is open up Photoshop. And you'll want to decide what size button you want. And so depending on how many buttons you have and how wide your page is, that'll gauge how many pixels wide your button's going to be. We'll set ours up at 120 pixels. So go to File, New. And notice it says 120 inches. I had already typed this in. Inches is not what I would want. That would be too big for our page. So I'm going to change that to pixels. And then I'm going to type in my 120. And my height, a good height would be about 30. I'll leave the resolution at 72. If there's a chance that you'd want a transparent background and just the text shows, then just leave this background as transparent. Go ahead and click OK. And we'll zoom in so we can read this a little bit better. The first thing is you'll want to add a background color. So you're going to want to pick what color that's going to be. So down here in the color selector, I'm just going to double click on that, and I'm just going to do white. So I can just click on this white as my color and then click OK. And then I'm going to fill it with the paint bucket. So right here I'm going to click on that and just fill my background. The next thing we'll do is add text to this file. So I'm going to click on my text tool, and at this point you want to make sure your text is the right size. If it's too big and we're working in such a small area, it won't be visible. This is also a chance to pick a fun font that you typically wouldn't be able to pick because most people don't have it on their computer. So you can select which font you would like, and I'm going to go with this AYT Christina Print, which is the font that some of us have on our computer, and if you don't have it, let me know and we'll download that to your computer. And then I'm just going to click in the upper left hand corner and highlight the whole area. And I'm going to start with my button that has the longest word or description. And that way I can create my text size to fit everything, because I don't want to be putting different text sizes in on all these buttons. So my longest one is probably the About Us. And I didn't change my font color, so I'm going to highlight all of that. And I'll just double click on the white and we'll make that black. So now it says About Us. And if I want to make any changes to this box size, I can resize it. If I want to make changes to the font, I can just highlight it, go up here, change the font size. If I wanted it bigger, I can do that. If I like that, I'm going to accept that by clicking the checkbox here. If I don't like it, I can cancel that by clicking on this. I'm going to accept it. And then I'm just going to move that by selecting this black arrow. And if you don't see the lines around your box once you select the black arrow, make sure this option is selected where it says Show Transform Controls. And then I can just move this about where I want it so it's centered. And then if I want to have any dimension to my button, I'm going to go back to Layer 1. And so over here in this Layers panel, I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to my More Options, and I'm going to go to Blending Options. And you have lots of different options you can play with here. I'm going to do the Bevel and Emboss, and you can see it's previewing, and that's what it looks like. If I want to play around with it to change the colors, the opacity, if I wanted to do something else, I could do that. I'm good with that, so I'm going to click OK. And all my buttons are going to look the same for button 1. So the first thing I'd like you to do is do a File, Save As, and find your folder that you're going to save this into. And I'm going to make a button activity folder. And I'll save this in here. And I'm going to call this button 1. And the reason I'm saving it as button 1, it's the one that's going to be visible first. And it's going to be a Photoshop file. And the reason you want to always save each button as a Photoshop file is then the layers will be saved. So if I need to come back and make any changes to this, I'll just click OK. I will still have the layer effect here. The next thing is I'm going to go to File, Save for Web and Devices. And you can see the different sizes. Right now it's a GIF image, and that is what I want to save it as. I just want to show you if I were to change it to a JPEG, be a little bit bigger in size. GIF is good, especially if you wanted to have transparency, and because there are no pictures on here, a GIF is the right type to save this at. So we're going to select this. I'm going to click Save, and I'm going to go into my same folder, and I'm going to call this one About Us 1. And that's because that's what the button is, and it's the first one for the page. Click Save. Okay, now we're going to make a change. We're going to just click our text tool, make sure we select the About Us layer, and then we'll highlight that. And we're going to write Contact. I'm going to accept that change. And notice right now it looks kind of pixelated. It's because we're viewing it at 300% because I had zoomed in. It wouldn't be that pixelated when we actually view it in normal size. Again, just go File, Save for Web and Devices. I don't need to save another Photoshop file. As long as I've got one, I can easily change the text on there. And again, we'll save it, and we'll call this one Contact 1. And then if I go back, I'm going to minimize so I can remember what my other button was. I had a Home button. So we'll do the same thing. Open up Photoshop again, and we'll just change this to Home. I don't have to make any other changes than that. I accept it. File, Save for Web and Devices. Save it. We'll call it Home 1. Okay, so now we have our 3 buttons for the first page. When we roll over them, we want them to change, and I want them to change color. I'm going to do a red color, and I'd like it to be the red that we have in the one card, the Just in Time for Christmas card. So I'm going to find that card. I'm going to open that up just so I can use the same colors. So I need to find where that's at, and I believe I have that in the M drive. And this one is a good example of it. And what I can do is I can just double click on my color, use my selection eyedropper tool, and I can select that red. A couple ways you can do this. One is if I accept this right now and I'm in Photoshop, I can just continue to use that color. Otherwise, you can copy down the RGB color, so this 159, 1, and 16. You can just copy in if you're in another program, or here's your hexadecimal code number. So if you want to use the same color in Dreamweaver, here's your code. So I'm going to click OK. And now I've got that red up. I can minimize this. And I'm going to go back to my layer 1 because I want to fill the background with red. So I'm going to click on my paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to fill that layer. I can decide if I want to change color. Maybe I'll do that. I'm going to switch these two around so I can pick a white color for my text. And I'm going to go ahead and select my text tool. So I have to go to my text layer to do that. Highlight my text. Double click on the white. It changes it. I've now got a home button that has white text, red background. Accept it. Okay, I'm going to do a file, save as first. We're going to call this one button 2, and that way we have a version that has that correct color. Save it as a Photoshop file, .psd. And now we need to save for web and devices. And we'd want to save this one as home2.gif. And now you're just going to continue on and do the same thing. You're going to do about us, accept that, save for web and devices, we'll save it. About us 2 is what I want to call this. We'll ignore this and click save. And contact is our last one. And again, file, save for web and devices, and contact 2. And now that you have these all saved nicely, as you insert these, you'll know exactly which one you want as your original image and which one you want to be the rollover image. So I'll save that, and I have now finished creating the buttons, and now I can go on and put these into Dreamweaver.